The Department of Justice says the TikTok ban on January 19th is constitutional. It should happen. The platform is a threat to national security. And yes, China is still involved no matter what TikTok US says. And in this massive 115-page brief filed by the DOJ in the DC Appeals Court late Friday night, the explosive evidence proving these government arguments look like this. Almost 20 pages of this Department of Justice brief are partially or fully redacted. Now, I read all 115 pages of this brief, so in context, it appears these areas are where the Department of Justice is laying out the possibly classified evidence that supports its claims that TikTok is a national security threat, but I can't report to you what they're saying because no one can read this. And that's a big part of TikTok's beef, that this ban is full of fear-mongering, but not a lot of hard evidence made public that proves China is some puppet master behind the TikTok platform, stealing U.S. user data and constantly manipulating the algorithm. Now, I can tell you what DOJ's response to that is because it's not redacted. DOJ says Congress doesn't need evidence. The Department of Justice writes, statutes need not be backed by an administrative record, and neither due process nor the First Amendment requires legislation to be supported by committee reports, floor debates, or even consideration, but only by a vote. This massive document is in response to the lawsuits filed by both TikTok and 8 U.S.-based TikTok creators who sued the federal government trying to stop this ban from happening. They all argue the law is a flagrant violation of the First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and several other existing laws. DOJ says the law doesn't ban speech. It bans TikTok, which the U.S. government classifies as a national security threat because of its parent company, ByteDance, which is based in China, a foreign adversary. So when it comes to the free speech First Amendment argument, DOJ writes that TikTok and the 8 TikTokers suing misapplied the First Amendment law in their original lawsuit. DOJ writes, it is well established that the First Amendment does not guarantee the right to communicate one's views at all times and places or in any manner that may be desired. And further, the DOJ says if TikTok is banned, there are plenty of other social media apps Americans can use to share their speech. Now to the national security argument. DOJ says TikTok's national security threat arises from 2 principal sources: data collection and covert content manipulation. So let's start with the data collection part. DOJ argues that based on several news articles, in order to address operational issues, TikTok employees shared sensitive U.S. user data on an internal communication platform which ByteDance has developed. The DOJ claims that as a result, this data may have been stored on Chinese servers and therefore could be accessible to ByteDance staff based in China. Then, of course, there are multiple pages of information that's redacted. So I can't tell you the specific evidence they're including, but obviously this must be classified. Of course, TikTok denies any U.S. user data after 2022 has been stored on any server outside of the United States. Prior to that, some U.S. user data collected by TikTok was also stored on servers in Singapore. The other national security threat the DOJ talks about in this document is China's ability to manipulate the algorithm to fit the narrative China wants to push and to undermine the narrative that the U.S. wants to push. Here, they don't point to any specific instance of it, but again, they point to public reporting that says Beijing-based moderators had the final call on approving or blocking certain videos, and said intelligence reporting further demonstrates that ByteDance and TikTok Global have taken action in response to Chinese government demands to censor content outside of China. There are more redactions here, so I can't tell you the specifics, but I can tell you U.S. TikTok has denied this too. It's important to understand the law does not outright ban TikTok on January 19th. The Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act specifically calls out ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese-based parent company, and orders it to sell off its interest in U.S. TikTok by January 19th. And if they don't, then the ban kicks in. Now, I've told you in several videos why TikTok says that's not only illegal, but also impossible to do. And no, I don't care which president is elected in November. No president alone can stop this ban from happening. The only way it stops is if Congress passes a new law or the courts stop it. If you want to read this massive document filed by the Department of Justice, I will email it out to you tonight in my NewsGirl News Roundup email, so make sure you sign yourself up.